ელემენტი.
Dear friends, today we have a difficult meeting since we will speak about the resolution which envisages legal and political assessment of the rule of Mikheil, Saakashvili and Giga Bokeria and recognition of their rule as a criminal regime. This resolution is initiated by the Patriots of Georgia faction and is currently in the process of consideration in the Parliament of Georgia. Once again, we would like to underline our faction's position that the Parliament should adopt this resolution since it's a question of the Georgian people's dignity. And we strongly believe that if the Parliament of Georgia expresses the will of the people, as it should do in a country striving for democracy, then we all have to understand that we won't be able to build a truly democratic and free state based on the rule of law if the criminals are not punished under the law. Today's meeting is taking place together with the people who were directly affected by the brutality of the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime. They were fighting against this regime and raising their voices when the majority of the society was silent. They lost their children, their family members, their relatives and close ones. This regime not only destroyed the lives of people, but also seized the property of numerous Georgian citizens. Most importantly, Georgia lost 22% of its lands because of this regime. However, today the representatives of this criminal regime dare to lecture us on democracy. They create an investigative commission in the Parliament of Georgia and are investigating the murder case. Today these criminals, who were the organizers of this regime, of this system, who were the direct implementers of this evil, dare to explain to us what human rights values and human life mean. Meanwhile, it is these criminals who ruined the lives of numerous people and repeatedly offended them. I would like to remind you the facts of the torture of prisoners. It is our team that exposed this matter, and as a result, thousands of prisoners escaped the torture and killing. We appeal to the Parliament of Georgia, to the constitutional majority, the Georgian Dream, part of which was opposing Saakashvili's regime together with us, to support our resolution, since it's a subject of national importance. People that are standing here today, who are directly affected by the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime, are making this appeal together with us in order to speed up the process of bringing the initiated by our faction resolution to the plenary session and its adoption. It is absolutely unacceptable and immoral that today Bokeria is teaching us in the parliament what democracy and freedom mean. Once again, I repeat, if justice is not restored, if the criminals are not punished under the law, then we won't be able to build a truly democratic, fair and civilized state. As you are aware, we have already gathered the signatures of 300,000 citizens of Georgia who support our resolution. Today I brought these signatures here so that media representatives can see themselves that these signatures include all the personal identification data of the people who signed the resolution, their names, surnames, ID numbers, phones and addresses. Thus, media representatives can see themselves that these all are real people. These are 300,000 citizens of Georgia who demand the adoption of this resolution from the Parliament of Georgia. 6 years have passed since the Georgian Dream came to power, but most of the high-profile cases, as well as those that did not receive wide publicity, still have not been investigated. That is why it is explicitly indicated in the second paragraph of our resolution that the Parliament of Georgia should take control of the investigation of these cases within 6 months. Now I would like to give the floor to the participants of the meeting, who will appeal to the society and most importantly to the Parliament of Georgia and its majority. Thank you. My dear people, first of all, I would like to welcome all of you and thank Ms. Irmainashvili. Every time I speak about my son Sulhan, tears flow down my face. I would like to tell you one fact which has not received publicity. Before the Rose Revolution, one poor man by the name of Bokeria worked for Sulhan. This man had a son, and once he asked Sulhan to release him from work and to hire instead of him his son. Sulhan got acquainted with the son of this man, and he turned out to be a good guy. Sulhan hired him to work and even sent him to study in America. This guy was very respectful of my son and me, and we had good relationship. His name was Roman Bokeria, and he turned out to be Giga Bokeria's relative. Once Roman came to Sulhan and told him that he had met with Giga Bokeria and that he had showed him the list of people whom they were going to imprison after the Rose Revolution and their come to power. He warned Sulhan that he had been in this list. If only my son fled the country like many others did at that time, today he would have been alive. However, Sulhan's courage did not allow him to do so, and now my son is dead. I want to tell all the citizens of Georgia one thing. You all should sign this resolution. If necessary, I'm ready to kneel before every member of parliament and ask them to support this resolution so that the criminals of the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime are finally punished under the law. Today's meeting is really very difficult. 6 years have passed since the Georgian Dream came to power, and regretfully, after 6 years, all of us who are affected by Saakashvili's regime again have to stand here together. I have a few words for the people who very often say that we should not bring up the past and that we should forget 9 years of Saakashvili's rule, since this topic is allegedly no longer relevant and it is a shame to look back in the past. I'd like to remind these people. There is no future without the past, and we would be able probably at least a little bit to forget the horrors of that past, only if all the criminals are punished under the law for the barbaric crimes they committed against our family members and us. This is the reason why I want to appeal to all those members of parliament who are fighting against the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime together with us and are now representing the voice of the people in the parliament. Don't forget the tragedies we went through and our fight for truth and justice. Don't forget about this and support the resolution, since justice has not yet been restored, and if there is no justice in the state, then it has no future. Today, those people, although it's difficult to call them people after the crimes they committed, feel no regret for their actions. On the contrary, they are obsessed with the idea of revenge and returning to power in order to ruin the lives of those remained people whom they have not destroyed yet. No matter how you call yourselves European Georgia or National Movement, both of you are the same for us. We know you very well, and you won't be able to deceive us. We perfectly understand that you will unite in a minute as soon as the situation becomes favorable for you. I want to tell you that you would never be able to return to power. Georgian people won't allow you. We went through hell, and we know what you are. That is why you are wasting your time on the attempts to cause some destabilization in the country in order to somehow return to power. You would never achieve this. Thank you, and once again I appeal to the members of parliament to support our fair resolution. Today I'm standing both among the innocent victims and the family members of the innocent victims of the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime. While I am the only one here who is a guilty victim of this regime, because it is me who brought this regime to power. Therefore, probably I deserve to be in such a state. Despite the fact that I was one of them, I strongly believe that all the representatives of this regime should be held accountable before the law, and I have a very specific proposal in this regard. I suggest that the national movement should be put at the same rank as the fascist and communist regimes, and included to the Legislative Act of Freedom, which envisages the assessment of the fascist and communist regimes and the unacceptability of their actions. In this way, the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime will not only be given political assessment, but the criminal actions of this regime would also have legal consequences. For me, the national movement is absolutely the same totalitarian party as the fascist or communist parties. If anyone doubts about this fact, then another investigative commission should be created. But it is the Patriots of Georgia faction that should have the majority in this investigative commission, since it won't be right if the members of Bokeria or Saakashvili factions investigate the actions of the representatives of their regime. According to the constitution and law, the parliamentary majority cannot represent a majority in this commission. Therefore, the only option that remains is to create a 9-10 member commission in which the Patriots of Georgia will have 6 persons. After the completion of the work of this commission, the actions of the national movement should be given legal and political assessment, and their regime should be put at the same rank as the fascist and communist regimes. Afterwards, the representatives of the national movement should be forbidden to hold any state positions for a certain period of 10-15 years, like it happened in Eastern Europe, while Well, I'm ready to fall under this prohibition as one of the founders of the national movement, since I deserve this. Thank you. I want to note that a young girl, Ledia Prasidi, is standing here with us today. When she was a little kid, Saakashvili's regime shot her family members before her eyes. Such punitive operations, this brutality, this violence, this terror, were repeatedly conducted by that regime in front of kids, which is a double crime. Now I would like to give the floor to our colleague, Ms. Elena Tevdoradze. She will appeal to the Parliament of Georgia. First of all, I welcome all of you. I won't hide that I deeply respect Ms. Irma Inashvili. She is a fighter and she reminds me a lot of me. I have devoted a very large part of my life to fighting for justice. There are many people here who suffered from the former regime, and I was actively involved in the process of achieving justice for these people. Sometimes I succeeded in achieving justice for them, and sometimes I did not. When I understood that I was no longer able to defend people, since it was just not possible to achieve justice under that regime, I announced that I was leaving politics. I was the member of parliament at that time, and I announced this a year before the end of my term in the parliament, because I didn't want to be with Saakashvili or Bokeria or any of the representatives of their regime. Regretfully, still the victims of that regime have not achieved the justice that they deserve. Therefore, I would like to address to the Georgian Dream's constitutional majority. When you were coming to power, you told us that protection of human rights is of priority importance to you, and you promised to fight for justice. Thus, I ask you to support the resolution, since that's preciously the moment in which you can prove your words and keep your promise. Thank you. Miss Nora Kvitsiani is here with us today. She spent in prison more than 6 years, although she was completely innocent. She spent in jail more than 6 years because of her similarly completely innocent brother Emzar Kvitsiani. I would like to give the floor to Miss Kvitsiani. I welcome all of you. I'm already tired of talking about myself, but still I have to say, all of us who are standing here today are the victims of the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime. However, the national movement is still sitting in the parliament. It was the most terrible, the most brutal regime ever, and there does not exist a crime that was not committed by them. Just imagine, I spent 7 years in captivity, and this happened in the 21st century. That regime charged me under 3 articles, despite the fact that I was absolutely innocent. I have never committed any crime. Today you are sitting in the parliament and are allegedly looking for justice. You are speaking about the defeat of some regime. Which regime are you talking about if it is you who tortured us? If it is you who physically assaulted us, if it is you who illegally imprisoned us, if it is you who killed our children, if it is you who seized our property, it is your regime whose victims are all of us standing here today. It is you who illegally put me in jail, and it is you who removed my brother from the protection of the Kodori Gorge and in the meantime ceded this territory. Now I am asking you, who is the betrayer here? Are not those who ceded our territories without a fight real betrayers? Are not they? What democracy are you talking about if it is you who are keeping me as a hostage for 7 years in the 21st century? Today I am completely justified, but who will be held responsible for my illegal imprisonment for 7 years? I am asking the national movement, who will be accountable for this crime? You illegally imprisoned me for 7 years, and you are now looking for justice? Really? I welcome you all. I appeal to the deputies who today are sitting in the parliament and represent the majority there. You came to power through the blood of my brother Giga, through the blood of Buta Robakidze, Guram Sharadze, Zurab Vazagashvili and other victims of the former regime. If they were not murdered, you probably would not have been in the parliament today. For some reason, those who have been torturing us for 9 years are also sitting in the parliament with you. So now I appeal to you and ask you to take us all and those 9 years of hell which we went through into account. I ask you to take the decision that we have been waiting from you for so long. You came to power with the promise to restore justice. But since you come to power, for 6 years already we have been looking for justice. I really did not expect that we would again have to fight for the restoration of justice under your government. You are very loyal to the national movement. As far as I see, and I'm very irritated with what I see, you are trying to do everything so that they are not held accountable for their crimes. But what about us? The murderers of our brothers, of our children, of our family members are sitting with you in the parliament and hold senior positions. Nothing threatens them. I ask you, please note our fair demand. The national movement must be convicted. It should disappear from the political arena forever. Dear friends, people who participate in today's meeting were fighting against the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime together with us. I would like to ask our friend who was also opposing the former regime together with us, Giga, to read the text of our appeal to the Parliament of Georgia. And after this, I would ask the participants in today's meeting to sign this appeal, which would be then disseminated to the media and obviously transferred to the Parliament. I welcome all the participants in today's meeting. It is really very difficult to stand here among so many people, so many families affected by the brutality of Saakashvili's regime. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. David Tarkhan Mouravi, Ms. Irma Inashvili and the Patriots of Georgia faction for their tireless support to all the affected by the former regime. During my last visit to Europe, where I had several meetings in the European structures, the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg ruled on my particular case and declared illegal both of my imprisonments in 2009 and 2011, when I was detained together with the other participants of the peaceful demonstrations against Saakashvili's regime. The Strasbourg court ordered the Georgian authorities to investigate not only the case of our illegal imprisonment, but also the conditions of our detention in prison. If Mr. Tarkhan Mouravi and Ms. Inashvili did not support us in this matter, we would not have been able to bring our problem to the European structures, and today we would not have had this judgment of the Strasbourg court. That is why, once again, I want to thank them on behalf of all of us. Thus, now we have the judgment of the European Court of Human Rights in Strasbourg, and we demand from the government authorities to investigate our case as the higher court obligated them to, and to punish the criminals under the law. Now I would like to read the text of our appeal to the Parliament of Georgia. Dear members of the Parliament of Georgia, representatives of the Georgian Dream's constitutional majority, as you are aware, the Parliament of Georgia is in the process of consideration of the resolution developed by the Patriots of Georgia faction. This resolution envisages legal and political assessment of the rule of Mikheil, Saakashvili and Giga and its recognition as a criminal regime. We, the citizens of Georgia who were directly affected by the brutality of this criminal regime. We, the citizens of Georgia whose children were violently massacred by this regime, while numerous both high-profile cases and those that didn't receive wide publicity still have not been investigated. We, the citizens of Georgia who were the illegally detained prisoners of this regime. We, the citizens of Georgia who were physically assaulted by the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime. We, the citizens of Georgia who were violently dispersed by the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime during our peaceful manifestations. We, the citizens of Georgia who were declared as the enemies of the state and spies by the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime. We, the citizens of Georgia who lost 22% of the Georgian lands because of this criminal regime. We appeal to the Parliament of Georgia, to the constitutional majority, to all those deputies of the Georgian Dream who were opposing the Saakashvili-Bokeria regime in 2004-2012 and were fighting for freedom and democracy together with us. If the Parliament of Georgia does not give legal and political assessment to the rule of Saakashvili and Bokeria, if a fundamental investigation of the crimes committed by the organizers of this regime does not start within 6 months, we won't be able to build a truly democratic and free state based on the principles of morality and the rule of law. We appeal to all the deputies of the Georgian Dream to support the resolution introduced by the Patriots of Georgia and to take into account 300,000 demands of the Georgian citizens who signed this resolution. We appeal to you to show your determination, your statesmanship, your national thinking and your civic mindedness in order to end for this resolution the so-called cohabitation with the criminals in our country once and for all. Now I would like to ask the participants in today's meeting to sign our appeal to the Parliament of Georgia, and we will then disseminate this document to the Parliament and the media.
როგორ გეკადრებათ, როგორც მოგეხერხებათ ისე.